I've reached Ezekiel Kralen's story. The JBL Blues. We're up to December 28th in this story. It's crawling forward at a pace equal to reality, but we're a few months behind. His latest stories are always in Mendocino Community Network. You see, there was something in the MC Unannounced listserv that interested me. Let me just see if I can find it while I'm just, That was the thing that I saw earlier that really surprised me. I don't know why people do this, but where was it? I don't know why, but David Gurney wrote, you really should keep your abusive, childish insults to yourself. They say a lot more about you than anybody else. And then Ezekiel wrote, I wash my hands of you, Mr. Gurney, including not contacting the deputy you recommended in our recent private email exchange. You run like hot and cold water. IOW, a hot-headed, backstabbing idiot. I gave you tons of support, yet this is the third time you've turned on me like a shrieking harpy, capital H, harpy. You have far more in common with Mr. Sewers than you care to acknowledge. You are both, capital B-O-T-H, neurotic drama queens with little that is rational to offer the world. What a sad joke you turned out to be. Talking to either of you is like talking to bratty children. And he ends with woohoo. And then David Gurney read that and replied, you're a rat and insane. Which... Oh, my God. And that's preceded by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other posts by Ezekiel, who, I don't know. What the hell is the matter with these people? The JBL Blues by Ezekiel Kralen. Here's his project, a story about his a couple of dogs that he loves, Flacco and Lucky. And they're owned by a homeless man, a meth head, who abuses Ezekiel and yells at him. And for some reason, Ezekiel gives him money once or twice a week just so that he'll take care of the dogs right, because Ezekiel is not allowed to have the dogs in his house, in his apartment. So somebody has to take care of them. And this story just goes on and on and on. And it's I'm kind of enjoying it, a little more each time as I sort of have a fuller, more complete image in my head of the situation. So, Ezekiel Kralen wrote the JBL Blues, email posts from December 28th to January 1st. A busy night, December 29th. Watson wrote, quite a picture. Amazing how he creates a little island of cheer in the dismal gloom. I replied, he was very welcome. After so many dysfunctional lost souls wandering about the Castro, I regret now not stepping out to have a friendly chat with him. No one spoke with him out there, not even Deke. He just sat by himself in semi-meditation, then disappeared. I don't know how long he was out there, maybe 2 hours. I've met others like him, though few and far between, amazing human beings, or perhaps bodhisattva guardians paying me a subtle visit. Be that as it may, he inspired me to write a new Xmas tale, which I will be working on for another day or two before I release this latest trove of inspiration. Maybe that's why he showed up, to give me that story. By the way, those are the Ukrainian colors he's seated on in a smaller circle of cloth atop the glittery spread. Watson wrote, so glad Deke seems to be caring for the pups reasonably well. I think about them a lot. Pure little souls out there in the rough world. I replied, they are truly angels, so blessed to have them in my world, but so grief-stricken they don't have a kinder master, and I still can't offer them shelter through the storms, the ecstasy and the agony. Watson wrote, insane wind and rain the other night, howling through the trees like 1,000 banshees. The power went out around 11. I expected it to be out for days, as it's done in the past, but it popped back on within an hour. Phew! I replied, glad you got your power back so soon. Nothing like that down here. The rains have so far been on the mild side. Subject, Deke's $500 speaker, December 31st. Thursday evening, he asked if I can give him $150 on Tuesday when my next payment comes in. I said okay, because it's payment for Sunday, the 1st, Thursday 2 days later, and then the next Sunday, so it won't be too long from then to resume his allowance on the 12th, 10 days, but he neglected to tell me it was for a Bluetooth speaker he was going to get later that day, in advance. Nor did he tell me he was going to put me in the middle by bringing the seller to my building and calling up to my window so I could lug the damn thing upstairs. After I agreed to this, he muttered something about how he'll tell the seller I handle his finances for him, so he won't think this is coming out of my own wallet. Something which he said a couple of weeks ago he'll do from now on to deflect any jealous repercussions from homeless strangers he brags to, against my wishes. In fact, I really don't want him to do that either. He should just shut up about it, but the fool never obliges. So about 2 hours later, he called me back downstairs, introduced me to the seller, whom I already know a bit and is actually a nice guy. Don't know his name yet, so let's call him Sedge for now. Deke then blurted to him, "So you'll get $200 on Tuesday." "Whoa, hold on," I exclaimed in fury. "You said $150. No way can I give you any more. Out of the question." He and Sedge mumbled a quick exchange of words, and $150 was fine. I then admonished Deke, "This ain't going to happen again. No more third-party deals putting me in the middle and trying to squeeze even more money out of me." "I don't want to hear this right now," he yelled in my face, then moved 10 feet away from me with back turned. He also called me a bitch, so I upbraided him further. "Stop acting like a child. Look at your dogs. They're out here on a dirty blanket, and they need better care than you're giving them. They're more important than your electronics." It was raining lightly, and the pups only had a thin plastic sheet to cover them that conveyed more chill than warmth, and the blanket was too small for both of them to lay down upon without exposure to the wet sidewalk. So they patiently sat upright in order to share the tiny island of warmth and dryness. At least they were not shivering. Deke calmed down quickly, seeing as Sedge was witnessing all this, and he didn't want to blow the deal. To his credit, Sedge remained calm throughout the clash, just like the doggies. He simply stood against the ATM plywood with a large speaker by his side and a vertical old lady shopping cart containing another speaker protected from the rain with a clear, thick plastic cover zipped up. From that location, however, the rain didn't intrude upon the exposed speaker that would soon be Deke's. I should note here that Sedge is always neat as a pin and loves his music. He's middle-aged, of short stature, wears a thick pair of eyeglasses, is always in an amiable mood. Every time I see him, he has a new speaker of high quality, sometimes very large, other times portable enough to carry from a handle. Don't know how he manages to stay so neat, even in the rain, but he does, and I'm impressed. Perhaps he has somewhere indoors to stay at nights, though I've seen/heard him strolling by as late as 4 a.m. At any rate, the speaker he offered Deke is 3 feet tall and 1.5 feet wide and deep and weighs a fucking 35 pounds. Deke suggested he bring it upstairs himself since it's so heavy. "I promise I'll just place it by your door and leave immediately." "No, that's okay. I can handle it," I replied, then took the monster by the handle and hauled it up the stairs, one hefty step after another. He said just charge it for a half hour or so and then bring it back down when he next calls. At any rate, they are both to drop by on Tuesday around 5 p.m. when I give Sedge his money. Per my instructions, as no way am I going to hand Deke the bills to pay Sedge on his own. He could show up later and claim he was mugged or lose it before he could make the transaction. When I returned downstairs, Sedge was fussing with his own speaker, and Deke said, "Watch the dogs for a few minutes. He'll be back shortly." I said, "Fine." And once he left, perhaps to take a dump somewhere private, he uses plastic bags for that. I turned to Sedge and apologized. "Sorry about that. He acts like a little shit when he's around me, so thanks for being so patient." He just smiled and shrugged his shoulders and then went back to fussing with his speaker's dials and buttons. So I then approached Flacco and Lucky, pet them under the plastic sheet before making them a bit more comfortable there beside the curb and leashed to their master's cart, glad to see they were reasonably dry and warm. Everything in his cart, and there wasn't much that night, was sopping wet because he rarely bothers to protect its contents from the rain, and I have no idea why not, since I can always provide him with trash bags for cover, if nothing else, though he is quite capable of finding his own material to do that, considering just how resourceful he can be. I also took his soaked sleeping bag upstairs to hang dry overnight and brought down another one ready to go and sealed in a plastic wrap, along with a fresh supply of dog food and a bowl of water. Deke returned less than 10 minutes later and moved cart and pups beneath the awning of Super Duper now that it was closed. I found a large folded box in the basement and brought it out for the pups, set it atop a trash bag to keep the cardboard bottom dry, gave him a couple of clean rags to dry off the mutts, after which I tossed the new sleeping bag into the box. The wee hounds stepped inside immediately like a welcome hobbit hole of comfort. They instantly snuggled together and drifted off in a contented slumber. Sedge was still downstairs, his speaker blasting away some jazzy blues while I was back Huffle, searching Amazon for JBL 300 to discover the JBL Party Box 300 for a whopping $499.99. I don't know how Sedge could give anyone such a great deal, but I'm not going to ask any questions. Nor do I think it's a good idea to tell Deke its real value, though I will advise him to maintain a friendship with Sedge, seeing as he's also an honest, stable person who would never rip him off. But I will suggest to Sedge not to sell him anything so cumbersome again, and explain why, or at least not one without wheels, which this model lacks, because then Deke has to load it into his cart and deny the pooches a cozy, warm spot with a waterproof cover during the stormy spells. For the idiot values his gadgets over the furry angels, forcing them to walk in the rain unprotected whenever a heavy speaker without wheels is in his possession. 40 minutes later, Deke called up for his new speaker. Double bag it, too. So I did just that with 2 trash bags and parked it in the alcove beside my room, locked the door, and rushed back downstairs. As soon as Deke saw me approach without the speaker, he began to squawk about why I don't have it. I opened the front gate and said, "Okay, get it yourself. It's by my door." As he stepped inside and was halfway up the first run of stairs, he paused in confusion, turned to me and muttered something about where he can find it. "Don't worry, it's right beside my door where no one walking by can see it," I assured. He soon returned down the stairs, carrying the hefty beast in both arms, and exclaimed, "This is my birthday gift." His birthday's January 22nd, by the way, but I doubt he'll be able to hold on to it that long. He might even lose it before payment is made. Rather than vocalize such a conclusion which would upset him, I simply shrugged my shoulders and said, "Well then, happy birthday," as I held the gate open for him to depart. This was 2 days ago. I still have to report on yesterday evening, which was so horrific I resorted to calling SFPD non-emergency once again, coming up in a later missive. Subject: New Year's Eve sucked as usual. When doesn't it? Date: January 1st. Any day but the last day of the year, I guess. Friday evening, yesterday, Deke showed up angry and screaming as he wheeled his cart up to my window. "Zeke, get down here! Hurry! Zeke!" I peered out the window, and he finally looked up, a streak of anger across his mug. "Come on, get down right now!" It had started raining hours earlier and didn't look like it was going to quit any time soon. He thunderously pounded on the front gate as I walked down the stairs, with another resident preceding me. She's a young woman, but a sorry lush, and when I called out, "Hey, stop that!" she turned to me. "No, sorry, not you. I was telling my friend out there to simmer down." "Oh," was all she said, then tottered through the gate, and I followed a few seconds later. The pups were sopping wet, as were Deke and his shopping cart. "This rain is driving me nuts. You got to take the dogs off my hands till tomorrow. They're going to die out here." I told him calmly, "No way, and you got to stop screaming or I'll call the cops." "Well, Watson," he continued bellowing, strutting around while the pups looked up at me with joyful eyes and sought my hugs, which I promptly answered by crouching down on one knee on the wet cement. They felt warm enough, didn't seem to be bothered by the rain too much, though of course they'd love more than anything right now, there and then, to find warm, dry shelter. Deke persisted hollering like a crazed banshee, and since he last dropped over, he lost another friend to fentanyl. Someone pointed a gun at his head, and Flacco almost got hit by a car on their way here. "Bullshit," I snapped back. "None of that happened. You're always making up crises to get your way. You're a big fat phony. Now let me bring the dogs water and food." "No, I'm not interested in that. You need to watch the dogs. I'm going." "If you leave them here against my wishes, that's abandonment. I'll call animal control and you'll never see them again," I replied. "So I'd be more than happy to get them off the streets into a loving home, so don't test me. I mean it." While still screaming, he handed me the cumbersome JBL speaker, which I then lugged upstairs with his bellowing in my ears all the way hovel and through my window when I stepped inside. He quieted down by the time I brought the food and water downstairs, but revved up again the moment I set down the bowls, which the mutts gratefully accepted. "No, I didn't ask you to feed them. I'm going to kick their food into the street," he said. Jesus, what's the... And so you see what I'm talking about. It never just goes on and never ends. Like everything else, I suppose,